All right, so today on Facts Only, we're
Yeah.
talking about Tems.
Yeah.
Yes, so she just dropped her second EP, If Orange Was a Place.
Yeah.
And what do you think about this sudden rise?
Well, the sudden rise has been very meteoric, but that has been a feature of Tems's journey so far. Like Tems, SoundCloud era, but the era that where people really knew Tems was when she released Mr. Rebel and Luku Luku. A lot of people can say, oh, we knew her before then.
Well then, yeah.
But it was Mr. Rebel that caught a lot of people's attention, especially people who pay attention to Nigerian underground. But for a lot of people that were like quote unquote music lovers, Luku Luku was a record that really caught people's attention. Till date, a lot of fans, even like people like myself, still feel like, man, if only they could shoot a video for this record. It's such an amazing record. From sonically to the sound to the songwriting to the hook to how catchy it is, amazing. But the record that really got everybody's attention in terms of the wider market was Try Me. Try Me was 2019, yeah. So Try Me was on YouTube. When they shot the video, they put it on TrueView. But aside from that, it was already a good song in itself. Like a lot of people are going to argue that, oh, maybe Luku Luku should have been the single instead of Try Me. But when I spoke with Tems, I think last year, she said, this is also how she said, what if I wasn't exactly as ready to push Luku Luku as a single as at the time that I dropped it? And that makes a lot of sense. Because you can have a lot of things in your head, or a lot of things can make an artist want to push a song on the level that they pushed Try Me. But when they pushed Try Me, I remember there was a time when I was going on my street. My street is where people play like Naira Marley. Like outside when you step out of my street. The songs that you are probably going to hear is like songs like Coming, Soapy, and maybe you can hear Buju now, a lot of Wizkid, you know. But the fact that I heard Try Me there, I'm like, whoa. It was also the same time that I saw Dusi as on a barber shop. I'm like, okay, maybe this guy is penetrated after all, you know. So it's been a whirlwind journey since then. She has not stopped. It's been from one thing to another, to one thing to another. I mean, there was a time where there was an uncertainty for like about 3 to 6 months. At the start of, towards the end of 2019, the start of last year, when she did a record with Odusi, which personally, in my opinion, not a fact now, I just felt like it wasn't the right move at the time. I tweeted about it that, nah, this wasn't it. But since then, after that, Drop Damages, these days, the EP, Essence, Fountains, new EP, it's just been going back to back. The thing about Tems is the major theme in her career so far is Tems has just been able to surpass expectations. Like, when you think, oh, this is it, she goes like, it's just like that. It's almost like there is, as much as she's a unique talent. So Tems has a combination of so many things. Tems, the voice itself attracts a ton of people. Like, you can't hear that voice and not say, who's that?
Right.
Yeah. So then the combination of that and the fact that she can write, she might not be as fully formed yet because she's still young. A lot of people. I was reading an interview once from, I think it was Bjork. I can't remember who it was. Bjork was saying that he heard from another writer, an older writer, that maybe, I think it was Slash from Guns N' Roses, something like that most songwriters truly mature in their mid-30s. That's when they are in their elements, like people that truly write songs. He said what that person said was, you can be writing in your teens. There's a lot of essence and exuberance and hunger in the things you're writing. But when you're in your 30s, especially when you've seen a lot in your 20s and your early 30s, maybe you had a relationship and all that, it's in your mid-30s that you really start to write your essential records. Then the person gave an example of Bob Dylan's album, the album that came back and won a ton of awards. So going back to Tems now, she can write, she can produce, she's like all those things in one. And then because she's a woman, either you want to believe it or not, that's your business. You want to believe it or not, the looks come into play, right? The fact that she's a beautiful woman and she's built in a way that attracts a lot of masculine vanity, quote unquote. You remember when Tems was popping and she was doing a lot of things? You remember what was trending on social media?
Yes.
Happened.
Yes,
A lot of people wanted
I remember.
to see. And then when it finally happened, it went like that on social media. When she posted that picture, that swimming pool picture on her stories, it went just like that. So it's been an incredible journey. Let's just stop there for now.
All right. Yeah. So, do you think she really did it by herself? Because people are saying that, okay, Wizkid helped her and all that.
First is first. It's a myth that anybody does it by themselves.
Okay.
Like, there's this thing that that's become a running joke on music Twitter. When people want to troll artists, they will say, "Oh, I did it by myself." No, right? You didn't do it by yourself. Shut up. You did not. Like, even indie artists have a lot of help. So that's why sometimes I can forgive certain managers or people behind the scenes for coming out to take some credit for their work, because they don't get credit.
Yes,
they don't.
I noticed that too.
You get what I mean? They don't get credit. Like, they can work all day, all night, every day for one artist, and one day the artist will just wake up and be like, you know what? You are not taking me international, or you are not getting me enough branding. Ooh, adios. So it go be. You know, all those things. So it's impossible for somebody to do it by themselves. And let's get it out of our heads that something is organic. Nothing is organic. Like, every successful thing you see, something made it inorganic. It's especially in this digital world where attention span, there's the currency is attention span. The goal is attention span, to be able to grab it long enough. And for you to be able to grab attention span long enough, you have to do something that is inorganic. So let's go back to, how does this inform Tems? It informs Tems in a way where a lot of people are saying, oh, she did this, but she had help from this person. Everybody needs a springboard. Kanye West had Jay-Z. Everybody in history has had a springboard of some kind. Jay-Z needed Dame and Big to form Rockefeller Records for him to rise up. Some people are going to argue that when Big was alive, the fact that they're both from Brooklyn also helped him in his underground career. There was also drug era Hove that gave Hove a lot of money for them to start Rockefeller Records, right? Like, who else? Drake. Drake was signed to Young Money. And even without Young Money, Drake had 40, Oliver Khatib, the entire team behind him, people that were working. He rapped on his last album that he doesn't know how he can thank his guys. So there is no way in hell that somebody doesn't have a springboard. You can't say that Tems, it's not a slight to say that you didn't do it all by yourself. It takes effort to mold something into something. I mean, Tems is not fully formed yet. We have not seen the best of her yet. Right now, it's probably, if there was a chart somewhere at RCA where they wrote the 5-year plan for Tems, she's probably on a level where they thought she'll be in like 3 years maybe. Because how many songs into your career? You have 2 top 40 Billboard Hot 100 hits. That is crazy. That is crazy. Aside from that, you already have this quote and unquote cult following in Nigeria that is very mixed in terms of like gender balance and demography. Like, young people appreciate you, girls appreciate you, boys appreciate you. There's a lot of attraction to her. So you can't say that she did it by herself, but in a lot of ways, her talent, the fact that she's so unique in the sense that when Tems came into the industry, there was this there were female stars in the industry, right? But it felt like something else was needed. And we did an episode about, I think people should go watch out to get some context about female artists, how Nigeria might be opening up for more females or women, right? There was a time that there was this space for new age female artists. Like, Nigeria was crystallizing to allow more female artists. And it just so happens that at the time, Tems, with everything that makes her special, walked into it. And you can't, and across the way, the fact that she signed to a major, the fact that she had Wizkid, the fact that she's had Drake, all those things have helped her. But the only reason those guys were attracted to her in the first place was because she had a ton of talent. And because she is so unique. Like, the entire thing that she packs, she's so unique. Or she was unique. So you can't say that there's an argument to be made for both. For did she do it by herself? Did she not do it by herself? Yeah, there's an argument to be made for both.
All right. So what do you think the label is trying to make her into?
Well, nobody can tell. In terms, over the past 2 years, I wrote it in my review for If Orange Was a Place. Over the past 2 years, 2 artist rollouts that have been incredibly impressive have been Chloe Bailey, who is signed to Parkwood, and I think Sony, and Tems. Like, it feels like there's a plan somewhere. You remember how they broke Chloe Bailey out of Chloe and Ailey, started the fresh Instagram page? I think it was without the blue tick at the time, the verification badge. Like they started it, she started doing covers like a fresh artist, right? She started doing all of these things. And then all of a sudden, it's taking about 12 months. Now she recently released her first single. Like all those things before she released her first single. They wanted her to have like some sort of underground run, despite the fact that she was already Grammy nominated. This is a woman who is part of a girl group that have been into acting, that she's written songs, she's an incredible producer, and then you want her to have like an underground run. So that, and then Tems, like it feels like everything that has gone into Tems has been thought out, but the success that have come our way have probably not been anticipated. So Tems, like the label that she signed to has a history of beautiful artist developments. Like, name them. Her, like they literally turned Gabby Wilson into her, right? That is crazy. And then they are turning her into something else. Like her is trying to become something else under them now. And then you're looking at there's a girl called Jella Dadin that is probably currently signed to them. She's in development. So on a good day, if Tems is part of that label, she should probably be in development right now. Like she will be releasing music, but they will be trying to form who she is. But because Tems launched out of the gates in Nigeria, like launched straight out of the gates, like there was no way for Tems to be underground, to be experimenting, from when she dropped it, people started listening. Then she dropped Try Me, she dropped Damages these days, dropped the EP. And now Essence followed, Fountains followed. Now, so there has been no stop for Tems to actually, for somebody to actually try to make Tems into something. So now it's about trying to find who she is. Like, it's about to find a brand that she might represent. Maybe not her identity, because even Tems is still young. So she's probably still finding who she is as a person. So finding the best brand is something, in terms of the market that they're trying to push Tems into, like I wrote in the review, you will need an identity, something that you represent. But the thing is, you have to understand the conundrum of the label. What do we brand her as? Are we going to brand her as a Nigerian artist that's part of the Afrobeats to the world? Because the songs that blew her on that side have been Afrobeats records like Essence and Fountains. Or are we going to just change it entirely because she has a very R&B-esque essence in herself as an artist? Should we brand her as an R&B artist? And then when we decide the sound itself, who should we push her to? Are we pushing her to a predominantly Nigerian audience? Or are we pushing her as an R&B or an Afro-pop artist? Are we pushing her to the other side? Like, how do we balance both terrains? How do we find the appropriate sound that helps her appeal to an audience that can work? So, and while embodying a brand that appeals to that audience, that is where they are right now. They don't have the luxury of Tems having an artist development or an underground gem where she will find who she is. So now they are finding it on the go because there is no time. So nobody knows what it is right now. What we can say is we are going to find out over the next 6 months to a year.
Okay, so what do you see as the difference between the early Tems and this current Tems?
When Ayra Starr launched, a lot of people were drawing comparisons between Tems and Ayra Starr because their vocal texture, especially the way they can finish cadences, how their voices go when they manipulate cadences. A lot of people were liking both of them together. But the truth is, most of the girls in their generation sort of sing like that. for whatever reason. Most of the girls in that generation sort of sing like that for whatever reason possible. So we did a Facts Only episode where we tried to understand the differences. You can watch that for reference. The Tems that we knew at the time, or that the Tems that launched, the Tems that performed at the 2019 Palm Wine Fest, even the Tems that released the first EP, she was more conservative. You couldn't, like, everybody knew that she was a beautiful woman, but she found a way to make the conversation focus entirely squarely on the music. Not anything else.
Yeah.
Not the looks, not the body, not anything. Focus on the music. And it helped a lot. It was such a good idea. But over the past 6 months to a year, especially after, like, maybe since like over the past 4 or 5 months, the brand is sort of branching out. Now instead of the bigger outfits, we are seeing her wearing more skin tight outfits. Yeah. Like, we're seeing more cleavage. She did that picture in the pool that went viral, teased something for people, and boys went crazy because boys are whatever. Then now, in terms of the sound, right? The sound in the early days, it had some Afro essence, right? There was some Afro influences in terms of percussion and some other things. But now, the sound has gotten, on this EP, between the last EP and this EP, the sound has gotten slightly more Afrobeat. Like a song like Damages is Afro-infused, like Afrofusion. But the sound now, you hear a song like Crazy Things or Vibe Out, the Afro has sort of stepped up a bit. So in terms of the brand, in terms of the person, in terms of the personality and the sexuality to the music, all those things have increased. And if now there is some sort of experiment with language of delivery. Now the way she pronounced happening on Crazy Things, it's a very Nigerianized idea. Absolutely. It's not pure English anymore. She's also singing more in pidgin now. So it shows you that trying to find what works, and then Brent Faiyaz's record, which is an R&B record, pure R&B record that's produced by Jonah Christian. The other records were produced by Guilty Beats. Like, it shows that there's a lot of intention going into there, trying to feed it. What works? Oh, let's introduce her here. If it doesn't work, then we scrap it. Already, she probably has a ton of songs recorded. Right now, if you wanted Tems to release, like if you in an ideal world where everything was perfect, like Tems would have enough songs to make a good album, like a really good album. But it's not. These days, it's not just about good music. It's not just about good records. It's about what the songs represent, the audience you're pushing it to, how you roll out the artists, not just roll out the music, roll out the artists themselves. So the changes have been there, here and there. Like, as Tems has sort of gone from a Nigerian artist to something of the earliest stages of an international artist. Those things are there.
You mentioned the Ayra Starr comparison. Do you think that changed anything?
I remember when Ronaldo and Messi were talking. Okay. They were talking. Ronaldo and Messi have 3 conversations. There was a time that Ronaldo gave an interview like 5 years ago. There was a time that Messi gave an interview like 3 years ago. They gave interviews about each other. Okay. And then when they met at the 2019 UEFA Awards for UEFA where Van Dijk won Player of the Year, Ronaldo was saying, because he was the only one that could speak fluent English, he was saying that over the past 15 years that they've been pushing each other, right? Like, they've been pushing each other. Okay. And then what Jay-Z said when people talk about on the Breakfast Club, they asked him that, does he think like Biggie's death, the Notorious B.I.G., his death was a blessing to him? He said that iron sharpeneth iron, right? And when iron sharpeneth iron, everybody gets better. It's also about beef, right? Look at what Drake and Kanye West have been able to produce with their respective albums. Done that certified lover boy because they want to outdo each other. So it's not impossible. You can't outrightly point to how they have influenced each other, but you can see signs in the way the two of them, the two companies that they represent, have sort of, they are not the same set of people that they were at the start of the year. Ayra Starr is not who Ayra Starr is anymore. Tems is not who Tems is anymore. Like in terms of commercial appeal, Ayra Starr sort of taken off. We saw the entire, the incredibly amazing campaign for Bloody Samaritan that has sort of grown a life of its own now because it's inspired fear of missing out on people. You can see Tems. She's had 2 Billboard hits. That is out of here, right? Fountain is the number 26 record now, right? She's had all those things. And then aside from those achievements, in terms of who she is and the fact that she's not exploring more sexual, she's showing some more body. She's sitting down on a staircase where she's opening some legs. You probably have not have seen those things like a year ago. So the idea that a brand should become dense, both of them are probably going to influence each other, even though they are not the same. I don't want people to constantly say that they are not the same. They are very different. They are, like even personality-wise, they are very different. Like Ayra Starr is more out there. She's more ebullient. She's livelier. Tems is calmer. Like Ayra Starr is probably, if you see Ayra Starr, she might be like your girl next door now. But Tems is probably calmer, more reserved. She can be all those things. A lot of people are going to say that she can be those things. But she's probably one of those people that has to be comfortable before she can say anything. So they're different people, basically.
Yeah. Okay, so which one will help Tems more? Essence or Fountains?
Both of them are going to do different things for her.
Okay.
Essence introduced her. Fountains is going to sustain it for a while, simply because of the status of the artist involved. In terms of the better record, obviously Essence is the better record, obviously. But as Fountain is going to grow simply off the fact that Drake is the biggest artist in the world. Simple. Fountain is going to be there because of that alone. Like, it's going to have a lot of healthy streams. People are going to discover her from there, and it's going to do so there are 3 steps. There's the Essence version with Wizkid that got to number 44. There's the Essence remix with Justin Bieber that got to number 13, and there's Fountains with Drake. So those things are going to do different things. Drake and Justin Bieber have a lot of white American audience, so all those things probably introduce them to a larger audience. People are going to discover her and going to listen to the EP, which makes this EP make sense. Like, I've seen a lot of people complain, oh, it's not as good as the first EP, it's not this, For Broken Ears, it's not that. It's fine if it's not as good as it is. I don't think it's not as good, but it's fine if you want to think. Maybe For Broken Ears is slightly better, if I'm going to put my opinion there. But it's fine, because this EP is not something to judge as much. It's something to be understood, basically. It's not something to grade, because I didn't even grade it. I just spoke about it and I left it, because it feels like a strategic moment in our career. It feels like an experiment to see what works. So I don't think the grade of which one is going to be Essence or Fountains, which one is going to help our career more. I might go with Essence simply because Essence is going to become a forerunner for a lot of things in Nigerian music over the past 10 years, or the next 10 years. Already, a person like Wizkid has already inspired like a new generation. Like, I've said this several times on this show that everybody, like, I was speaking with Rexy last year, and Rexy was like, when he was in school, he attended, I think, Taisho Larry or something. And he said that everybody, like, when he got into uni, everybody wanted to sound like Wizkid. And that's the truth. Like, the yeah thing. Even till now, a bunch of kids, like a whole generation, is inspired by him. So the fact that he can go from there to go do that is going to help Tems, because the record has become sort of the flagship anthem for that album. And now a lot of Wizkid fans, a lot of people, new Wizkid fans, as it's growing, will also be Tems fans. Like, some of them will also be Tems fans. Like, it's going to be a transference thing. Yeah. It's going to be a transference thing. So with the Drake and Justin Bieber thing, it's more about spreading it out to more of the newer audience. But in terms of like maybe impact, the entry point, I would say maybe Essence has probably done more, maybe. Essence. But in terms of mileage for her, Fountains will probably do it. Yeah.
All right. So did the label specifically plan for Essence, or did it just happen?
Man, I don't think anybody can plan for Essence.
Okay.
I don't think anybody could have planned for Essence, to be honest. it's not like I don't think nobody could have planned for that record, because how do you plan for an Afrobeat record to get to top 20 on the Billboard 200? You don't plan that. You can plan to make it enter the charts, but you can't plan that.
Yeah. True.
You can't plan top 20. You can't plan that. It's not possible. It's simply impossible. But what they probably got right is the strategy they employed to get the record. They probably I've said it several times on the show that they probably seen the back end that this song and because it's already a good song. On this show last year, I think we said that it was one of the best Nigerian songs from last year. This was October last year, way before the thing started. So they probably saw all those things and felt like, man, it's also two best in one story. We need Afrobeats to work, and we have this young woman who we believe has a lot of talent. Both of them are signed to a label. If we can get this to somewhere, the two of them are going to benefit from it, and the label benefits from it. So it makes a lot of sense for everybody. So, they couldn't have planned for it.
So what's the biggest thing that Tems did with Essence?
The best thing Tems and her teams did with Essence was not tying into it as much.
Okay.
Not making it her whole identity. Like a lot of featured artists, especially younger artists, when they are part of a bigger record, they sort of get stuck. They don't know how to pivot from there. I mean, Tems has been lucky because she's had Essence Remix, and she's had Fountains. But at the same time, tying into Essence for a lot of people would have given you some Nigerian audience. She has that audience. But the best thing they did was not tying into it, not making it the whole identity for her career. Because then, for a lot of people, it would have become, oh, can she do it again? But now that conversation is not there. It's not there. Like, because they were strategic about it. You don't do, like a lot of human beings, forget social media. A lot of people on social media but they don't even, a lot of people on social media can't even understand how they behave, right? So, when push comes to shove, if they are tied into it and made it like, oh, meet Tems, they got the voice of Essence on the cover of maybe Essence magazine or something. Like, some people would have done it and it might have worked, maybe nobody knows. But it would have added an incredible amount of pressure that she might not have been able to shake for a long time. Like, but now that pressure is not there. As a matter of fact, what they did is, let's make her own person. She's her own person. Almost like they're even docking the Essence hype. Almost like it. Like when she's talking about Wizkid, she's probably talking about Wizkid as a potential artist on her next album, not as Essence. So it's very smart. That's the most commendable thing about this thing. It's going to favor her long and short term, like easily. Like a lot of people are going to say, oh, if she had tied into Essence, maybe the noise on her EP would have been better. Well, the EP is not doing badly. The song on it has a 3K streams in a day. That is not bad in under 24 hours. That is not bad. So she doesn't exactly. Essence has helped her enough. She doesn't need to carry it on her head for that to happen. Yeah. Some people might even begin to okay, yeah.
So that means that was the point of your success.
Exactly.
And the argument is still going.
Exactly. So I think it's an amazing thing. Yes. Yeah.
Is Tems already big here?
It's very difficult to say an artist is big here now. It's incredibly tough to argue that, simply because, like, especially these new age artists, because the Nigerian music ecosystem or landscape is so fragmented now. Like, there are silos on different types. There are silos and there are different demographics. So sometimes you can be really huge in like 3 demographics and then be not as big in the other 3 demographics. Right? It might be really big digitally on social media, on streaming platforms, but in real life, people might not know who you are. It's very possible. So a person like Tems, for example, being associated with Wizkid has helped her in that sense. But in terms of being big, maybe not as much. She's a digital sensation. But in terms of real life, she would need to release her own music to be able to get to the level of notoriety or popularity where we can call her a star. Like, I know a lot of people are going to be thinking, oh, she's had 2 Billboard hits. Yeah, she has. But it's just like arguing that, who is there? Just like arguing that AV is a star because he has one of the biggest Nigerian songs of the year. it's not exactly like it's not a mutually it's not mutually inclusive. Like it's not a mutually inclusive argument. One plus one does not equal 2. So, but what we can say is she's on her way to becoming that. Like inevitably she's going to become that. She's not as big here now, but she's big enough. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
She's big enough.
Okay, so what will this EP do for Tems?
What this EP will do for Tems is it's going to set the ground for her and the label. They are going to use to gauge what works and what doesn't work, like I said the other time. And it's the best thing. It's like a litmus test right now. It's like a litmus test with music. It's the best kind of litmus test. It's the best kind of experiment. It's the best kind of tone setter. It's the best kind of soft landing that you can build on to release a debut album. Especially if that debut album could potentially be groundbreaking. Like, she already has 2 Billboard hits. She has Essence, she has Damages, she has Try Me, she has These Days already in Nigeria. Like songs that have some audience, a genuine amount of audience, right? So that EP is, Tems is set up to have an incredible debut album. Like it's might be really big. Like in terms of like a pre-debut album run, I think the person that sets the bar for a pre-debut album was since '99, probably Whiskey. Like Whiskey pre-debut album was, Whiskey pre-debut album was as big as it gets. Like everybody was ready for the debut album. Like everybody, it was almost like all of us were at the time. My camera guy is nodding. Like every guy we were particular about that. So we didn't have as much of the EP culture at the time, but with Tems, the EP is going to contribute to that, and the debut album will probably be groundbreaking, and that's far from it.